An alpha wolf twin swapped places with her bruised sister, and the mate who hurt her paid the price. The mountain air bit cold against Arya's skin as she stood at the edge of the forest, her breath forming small clouds in the early morning darkness. The small town of Timber Ridge, nestled in the heart of Montana's wilderness, was still asleep, but Arya had been awake for hours. Something felt wrong. A knot had formed in her stomach 3 days ago and hadn't loosened since. Her twin sister, Luna, hadn't answered her calls in a week. Arya pulled her jacket tighter and started down the narrow path that led to the old cabin where Luna lived with her mate, Marcus. The trees stood like silent sentinels, their bare branches reaching toward the gray sky. Frost crunched beneath her boots with each step. She had always been the stronger twin, the one who spoke up, who fought back, who never let anyone push her around. Luna was gentler, softer, always seeing the best in people even when they didn't deserve it. That difference had worried Arya from the moment Luna announced she was mating with Marcus Blackwood. If you're enjoying this story, please subscribe and leave a comment telling us where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. Arya had met Marcus only twice before the mating ceremony. Both times, something about him had set her teeth on edge. The way he looked at Luna, like she was a possession rather than a partner. The way his smile never quite reached his eyes. The way his hand would grip Luna's arm just a little too tightly when he thought no one was watching. But Luna had been in love, or what she thought was love, and Arya's warnings had fallen on deaf ears. Their mother had died when they were 16, a hunting accident that left them orphaned and alone. Their father had disappeared years before that, abandoning the family when the twins were just children. So it had always been just the two of them, facing the world together. When Luna found Marcus, she thought she'd finally found someone to fill that void, someone to make her feel less alone. Arya had understood that desperation, that need to belong to someone, but she'd also seen the warning signs that Luna had been too blinded by hope to notice. Now, as she approached the cabin, that knot in her stomach twisted tighter. The cabin looked dark and unwelcoming, smoke rising lazily from the chimney. The property was isolated nearly 3 miles from the nearest neighbor, surrounded by dense forest on all sides. Marcus had insisted on the isolation, claiming he wanted privacy, wanted to build a life away from the pack's constant scrutiny. At the time, Luna had thought it was romantic. Now Arya understood it for what it really was, a way to keep Luna isolated, cut off from anyone who might help her. Arya knocked on the door, her knuckles rapping sharply against the old wood. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. "Luna? It's me." "Open up." Silence. Arya's heart began to race. She tried the handle and found it unlocked. The door creaked open, revealing a dim interior that smelled of stale beer and something else. Something that made her wolf stir uneasily inside her. The smell of fear. The smell of violence. "Luna?" The living room was a disaster. Empty beer bottles covered every surface. Dirty dishes were piled in the sink, some of them broken. The curtains were drawn tight, blocking out what little morning light tried to penetrate the gloom. A chair was overturned in the corner. There were holes in the walls, fist-sized, the plaster crumbling around them. Arya's blood ran cold. She moved through the cabin quickly, checking each room, her heart pounding harder with each step. The bathroom showed signs of hasty cleanup, water still pooled on the floor. The kitchen had a broken plate swept into the corner, the pieces glinting in the shadows. She found her sister in the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. Even in the low light, Arya could see the bruise blooming across Luna's left cheek, dark purple and angry. Another bruise circled her wrist like a bracelet. The way she held her ribs as if breathing hurt told Arya there were more injuries hidden beneath her clothes. Her sister's eyes were hollow, empty of the light that had always made her beautiful. Arya's blood turned to ice, then to fire. What happened? Her voice came out low, dangerous. Luna looked up slowly. and for a moment didn't seem to recognize her. Her eyes were unfocused, distant, like she'd retreated somewhere deep inside herself where the pain couldn't reach. Then recognition flickered, and tears began to stream down her face. "Arya, you shouldn't be here. If Marcus finds me, he's going to wish he'd never been born." Arya crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside her sister, gently touching her face. Luna flinched at the contact, an automatic response that made Arya's heart break. "How long?" 3 months. Luna's voice was barely a whisper, hoarse from crying or screaming or both. It started small. He'd get angry about dinner, or about me talking to other males in town. He said I was too friendly, that I was embarrassing him. Then he started criticizing everything. My clothes were wrong, my hair was wrong, the way I walked was wrong. Nothing I did was ever good enough. Arya listened, her jaw clenched so tight it ached. She wanted to interrupt, to rage, to break something, but she forced herself to stay quiet. Luna needed to talk, needed to let it all out. Then one night, about 3 months ago, he came home drunk. I'd made his favorite dinner, but he said it was cold. He threw the plate against the wall. Luna's voice cracked. Then he grabbed me. He said I was useless, that I couldn't do anything right. He hit me for the first time that night. Just once, across the face. He cried afterward, said he was sorry, said it would never happen again. I believed him. Luna. But it did happen again. And again. Each time was worse than the last. He started controlling everything. Who I could talk to, where I could go, what I could wear. He took my phone away, said I didn't need it since I had him. He cut me off from everyone. From the pack, from our friends, from you. Fresh tears spilled down Luna's cheeks. I wanted to call you so many times, but he watched me constantly, and I was ashamed. You warned me about him, and I didn't listen. I thought I knew better. Arya took her sister's hands carefully, mindful of the bruises. This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault. He's the monster, not you. I should have been stronger. I should have fought back. You survived. That took strength. Arya's voice was fierce. But now it's time to get you out of here. Where is he now? He went to the bar in town. He goes every afternoon, drinks until sunset, then comes back. Luna looked at the window, where the light was already starting to fade. He'll be back soon. Please, you have to go. He'll hurt you too. A cold smile spread across Arya's face, the kind of smile that made other wolves take a step back. No, he won't, but I'm going to hurt him. Arya, no, you don't understand. He's stronger than he looks. He's vicious when he's angry. I don't care how strong he is. Arya stood up, her mind already working through a plan. She looked at her sister, at the broken woman who had once laughed so freely, who had once danced in the rain and sang off-key, and believed the world was fundamentally good. Marcus had tried to destroy that woman, and Arya was going to make him pay for every moment of pain he'd caused. Luna, listen to me. We're going to switch places. Luna's eyes widened. What? We're twins. We look identical. You're going to leave here, go to my apartment in town, and stay there until I deal with this. I'm going to stay here and be you for a few days. Arya, that's insane. He'll know. He'll be able to tell. We might look the same, but we're different. The way we talk, the way we move. We've fooled people our entire lives. Remember when we switched classes in high school? Mrs. Henderson never figured it out, and she taught us both for a year. Remember when you took my exam and I went on your date with Tommy Peterson? He didn't know until we told him. Arya pulled her sister to her feet, ignoring Luna's wince of pain. This is the same thing, except this time the stakes are higher, and I'm not going to let him hurt you anymore. What are you going to do? Arya's eyes hardened, turning cold and predatory. I'm going to teach him what happens when you hurt someone I love. I'm going to make him understand that there are consequences for his actions. And I'm going to make sure he never, ever touches you again." Luna stared at her sister, seeing the determination in her eyes, the absolute certainty. Arya had always been the protector, even when they were children. When other kids bullied Luna for being too quiet, too gentle, Arya had stood between them and her sister like a wall. When their father left and their mother fell apart, Arya had been the one to hold the family together. And now, faced with the worst threat Luna had ever encountered, Arya was ready to step in once more. "He'll kill you," Luna whispered. "He'll try." Arya's smile was sharp and dangerous. "But I'm not you, Luna. I'm not gentle. I'm not forgiving. And I've been training to fight since I was 15 years old. Marcus is a bully who picks on someone smaller and weaker than him. Let's see how he does against someone who can fight back." 20 minutes later, they had switched clothes. Arya wore Luna's simple dress and cardigan, the fabric soft and worn from repeated washing. Luna put on Arya's jeans and leather jacket, looking strange and uncomfortable in the more assertive clothing. They stood before the mirror, and even Arya had to admit the resemblance was perfect. Same long dark hair, falling in waves past their shoulders. Same green eyes, though Luna's were red-rimmed from crying. Same heart-shaped face, same full lips, same straight nose. The only difference was in their expressions and the way they carried themselves. Luna looked frightened, hunched in on herself, trying to take up as little space as possible. Arya looked ready for war, her spine straight, her chin up, her eyes blazing with controlled fury. "You need to slouch more," Luna said quietly, "and keep your eyes down. Never look him directly in the eye unless he tells you to. It makes him angry." Arya forced herself to round her shoulders, to lower her gaze. It went against every instinct she had, but she needed to sell this deception. "Like this?" "Yes, and speak quietly. He says I talk too much, so I've learned to only speak when spoken to." The more Luna revealed about her life with Marcus, the angrier Arya became, but she channeled that anger, storing it away for later. She would need it. "Take my truck," Arya said, pressing her keys into Luna's hand. "The address to my apartment is in the GPS. Don't answer the door for anyone except me. There's food in the fridge, and the spare bedroom is all made up. I'll call you when this is over." "Arya, please be careful. He's dangerous. He's hurt me so badly, and he wasn't even really trying. If he actually wants to hurt you..." "I can handle myself." Arya hugged her sister gently, careful of her injuries. She could feel Luna's ribs through the thin fabric of the jacket, and realized with a start that her sister had lost weight. A lot of it. Marcus had been starving her, either deliberately or through neglect, another crime to add to his growing list. "Now go, before he gets back. And Luna, this isn't your fault. None of it. You're not weak for what happened to you. You're strong for surviving it." Luna hesitated at the door, looking back one more time. Her eyes were filled with fear and hope and love. "I love you. I love you too. Now go." The door closed, and Arya was alone in the cabin. She stood still for a moment, listening to the sound of her truck starting up, the crunch of gravel as Luna drove away. Then she was truly alone with the evidence of her sister's suffering. Arya looked around, really seeing the place for the first time. The cabin was a mess, but it was more than that. It was a crime scene. Every broken dish, every hole in the wall, every stain on the floor told a story of violence and fear. She moved through the space methodically, learning its layout, understanding the geography of Luna's prison. The bedroom had a lock on the outside of the door. Arya stared at it for a long moment, her hands clenching into fists. He'd been locking her in, trapping her, making sure she couldn't escape even when he left. In the bathroom, she found more evidence. bloodstains on the tile that someone had tried to scrub away, a broken mirror, the glass swept into a corner but not disposed of. Makeup in the cabinet, the kind used to cover bruises. The kitchen was worse. The refrigerator was nearly empty, just a few beers and some moldy leftovers. No fresh food, no vegetables, nothing that suggested anyone was being properly fed. The cabinets held a few cans of soup and some stale crackers. This was how Luna had been living for 3 months, isolated and half-starved, beaten and afraid. Arya's rage grew colder, more focused. This wasn't going to be about losing her temper. This was going to be calculated, precise. She was going to make Marcus understand exactly what he'd done, and she was going to make him pay for every single moment of Luna's suffering. She heard the truck pull up outside just after sunset. The engine cut off, and there was a moment of silence. Then heavy footsteps on the porch, unsteady and stumbling. The door banged open, slamming against the wall with enough force to rattle the windows. Marcus Blackwood stumbled inside, reeking of whiskey and cigarettes and sweat. He was a big man, tall and broad-shouldered, with the kind of build that came from hard labor and natural strength. His face was rough, unshaven for several days, with small, mean eyes that swept the room looking for something to criticize. His clothes were dirty, stained with beer and dirt. His knuckles were scarred and bruised, evidence of recent violence. "Luna!" he bellowed, his voice slurred but still carrying an edge of threat. "Where's my dinner?" Arya stepped out of the kitchen, keeping her head down the way she'd seen Luna do, making herself smaller, less threatening. Every instinct screamed at her to stand tall, to meet his eyes, to challenge him, but she forced herself to play the part. Not yet. She needed him to feel safe, to think he was in control. "I'm sorry. I wasn't feeling well. I can make something now." He crossed the room faster than she expected for someone so drunk, and his hand shot out, grabbing her arm. His grip was iron tight, his fingers digging into her flesh hard enough to bruise. Arya felt her wolf snarl inside her, demanding she fight back, demanding she tear his throat out for daring to touch her. But she forced herself to stay calm, to remain passive. Not yet. Not feeling well? His breath was hot and sour against her face, a nauseating mixture of alcohol and decay. "You think that's an excuse? You think you can just sit around all day doing nothing while I'm out working?" "I'm sorry," Arya repeated, hating every word but knowing she needed to play this right. She needed him to believe she was Luna. She needed him to feel powerful, in control, so that when she finally struck, it would be all the more devastating. "I'll make dinner right now." He shoved her toward the kitchen, putting his full strength behind it. Arya stumbled, catching herself on the counter. Her arm throbbed where he'd grabbed her, and she knew there would be bruises. Good. She wanted to remember this. She wanted to carry the physical evidence of what he was capable of, so that when the time came, she wouldn't hesitate. "Make it fast. And it better be good, or you'll be sorry." He collapsed into his chair, a worn recliner that faced the kitchen, giving him a clear view of her. He grabbed another beer from the case beside the chair and popped it open, drinking deeply. "And bring me another beer when you're done. This one's almost empty." Arya moved through the kitchen, her movements careful and measured. She found some pasta in the cabinet and started boiling water. There was a jar of sauce, barely enough for one serving, but she made it work. As she cooked, she could feel his gaze on her back, assessing, judging, waiting for an excuse to lash out. This was what Luna had lived with for 3 months. Every day, every hour, walking on eggshells, never knowing what would set him off, never knowing if she'd make it through the day without being hurt. The thought made Arya's hands shake with fury, but she kept her face neutral, kept playing the part. She set the plate in front of him along with a fresh beer. He took one bite, chewed slowly, then spit it out onto the plate. "This is garbage." He stood up, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You can't even cook a decent meal. What good are you? I work all day and I come home to this? To you? I can make something else." His hand came out of nowhere, striking her across the face with the back of his hand. Arya's head snapped to the side, and she tasted blood where her teeth had cut the inside of her cheek. Her wolf roared, demanding retribution, demanding blood. But still she held back. She needed him to think she was Luna. She needed him to feel safe, confident, in control. "Please," she whispered, touching her cheek. The skin was already swelling, hot and tender. "I'm sorry." "You're always sorry." He grabbed her hair, yanking her head back so she was forced to look up at him. His eyes were bloodshot and mean, filled with a casual cruelty that made her stomach turn. "But you never learn, do you? No matter how many times I have to teach you, you just don't get it." Arya looked up at him, and for just a moment, she let him see what was really in her eyes. Not fear, not submission, pure, cold rage. His expression flickered with confusion. Something wasn't right. Luna never looked at him like that. Luna always cried, always begged, always broke. But this woman staring up at him had eyes like winter ice, hard and unforgiving. "Luna?" "No," Arya said quietly, her voice steady and cold. "I'm Arya." She moved before he could react, before his alcohol-soaked brain could process what she'd said. Her knee came up hard between his legs, driving into his groin with all the force she could muster. His eyes went wide, his mouth opening in a soundless scream, and his grip on her hair loosened. As he doubled over, she brought her elbow down on the back of his neck, right where the spine met the skull. He crashed to the floor, gasping for air, his hands clutching at his groin. "You see, Marcus," Arya said, circling him like a predator stalking wounded prey. "You made a mistake. You thought Luna was alone. You thought she had no one to protect her. You thought you could hurt her and get away with it. But she has me, and I'm not nearly as forgiving as my sister." He tried to get up, his face contorted with pain and rage and confusion. "You crazy bitch." She kicked him in the ribs, putting all her strength behind it, feeling something crack under her boot. He rolled away, trying to protect himself, but she followed. She'd been training in combat since she was 15 years old, learning from the pack's best fighters. She'd fought males twice his size and won. Marcus was big, but he was slow, made clumsy by alcohol and overconfidence, and years of fighting opponents who couldn't fight back. "That's for the first time you hit her," Arya said coldly. He lunged at her from the floor, trying to grab her legs and pull her down. But Arya was ready. She sidestepped his charge and drove her fist into his kidney, a precise strike that made him howl in agony. He swung wildly, his fist grazing her shoulder, but she rolled with the impact and came up behind him. She swept his legs out from under him, and he hit the floor hard enough to rattle the windows. Before he could recover, she was on him, her knee pressed into his spine, her hand twisting his arm behind his back at an angle that made him scream. "That's for every time after," she hissed in his ear. "Every bruise you gave her, every time you made her cry, every moment of fear you put her through. I'm going to pay you back for all of it." "She's my mate," Marcus snarled, his voice strained with pain. "She belongs to me. I can do whatever I want with her. She belongs to herself." Arya twisted his arm harder, feeling the joint strain, hearing him gasp. "And you're going to learn that lesson. You're going to understand that she's not property. She's not a punching bag for you to take your frustrations out on. She's a person. She's my sister, and you hurt her. I'll kill you for this," he spat. "I'll kill both of you." "No, you won't." Arya leaned down, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Because if you ever come near her again, if you ever even think about her, I will end you. Do you understand me? I will hunt you down, and I will make you wish you'd never been born." She didn't break his arm, though every fiber of her being wanted to. Instead, she held him there, letting him feel helpless, letting him understand what it was like to be at someone else's mercy. His struggles grew weaker, his breathing harsh and labored. She could feel his heart racing, could smell the fear starting to mix with the alcohol and sweat. "I could kill you right now," Arya said quietly. "It would be easy. One quick twist and your neck would snap. Or I could let my wolf out, let her tear you apart. Part of me wants to. Part of me thinks the world would be better off without you in it." "Then do it," Marcus gasped. "Do it, you coward." "But that would be too quick, too merciful. And you don't deserve mercy." She released him and stood up, backing away. Marcus rolled over, clutching his arm, his face twisted with pain and humiliation and impotent rage. "You deserve to live with what you've done. You deserve to carry that weight for the rest of your miserable life." She pulled out her phone and showed him the screen. She'd been recording since he walked in the door. Every word, every action, all of it captured on video. His assault, his threats, his confession that he'd been hurting Luna. "I also have this. Video evidence of you assaulting me, threatening to kill me, admitting to abusing your mate. If you don't do exactly what I say, this goes to the Pack Council, to the human police, to everyone. You'll be cast out, Marcus. No pack will take you. You'll be a lone wolf, and we both know what happens to lone wolves in this territory." His face went pale. Being cast out was a death sentence. Without a pack, without protection, without territory, he wouldn't last a month in the wild. The packlands were surrounded by hostile territories, by wolves who would kill a lone male on sight. And the human authorities would be just as bad. Assault, domestic violence, attempted murder. He'd spend years in prison, surrounded by humans who hated wolves, who would make his life a living hell. "What do you want?" His voice was small now, defeated. "Here's what's going to happen," Arya said, her tone businesslike and cold. "You're going to leave this town. Tonight. You're going to pack your things, get in your truck and drive away. You're going to reject Luna as your mate, officially and publicly. You're going to sign whatever papers need to be signed to dissolve the bond, and you're never going to come near her again. You're never going to call her, write to her, or even think about her. She's going to move on with her life, and you're going to disappear. And if I don't?" He spat blood onto the floor, his teeth stained red. Arya's smile was cold and sharp, more a baring of teeth than any expression of happiness. "Then I'll come back, and next time I won't be so gentle. Next time I'll make sure you never hurt anyone again. I'll break every bone in your body. I'll make you beg for death. And then, when you're broken and bleeding and praying for it to end, I'll send this video to everyone. You'll be cast out and crippled. You'll die alone in the wilderness, and no one will mourn you." She walked to the door, then paused and looked back at him. He was still on the floor, broken and defeated, nothing like the monster who had terrorized her sister for 3 months. He looked small now, pathetic, stripped of the power he'd held over Luna. "You have 1 hour," Arya said. "Pack your things and get out. If you're still here when I come back, the deal is off. I'll release the video, and I'll finish what I started tonight." "Where am I supposed to go?" "I don't care. That's not my problem. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to beat up someone half your size." She opened the door, letting in the cold night air. 1 hour, Marcus. Don't waste it." She walked out into the night, leaving him there. The cold air felt good on her bruised face, sharp and clean after the stale atmosphere of the cabin. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally catching up with her. She'd done it. She'd confronted him, hurt him, made him understand that there were consequences for his actions. But it wasn't over yet. Arya walked into the forest, far enough that she couldn't be seen from the cabin, and pulled out her phone. She called Luna, and her sister answered on the first ring. "Arya, are you okay? What happened?" "It's done," Arya said, her voice steady despite the shaking in her hands. "He's leaving. You're free." Luna's sob of relief came through the phone, raw and broken and beautiful. "Thank you. Thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done without you." "You would have survived. You're stronger than you think." Arya leaned against a tree, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving her drained. "But you don't have to do it alone. That's what sisters are for." "Did you hurt him?" "Not as much as he deserved, but enough." Arya looked back at the cabin where a light had come on in the bedroom. Marcus was packing, just like she'd told him to. "He's going to leave town tonight. He's going to reject you as his mate, and he's never going to bother you again." "How can you be sure?" "Because I have video evidence of him assaulting me and threatening to kill me. If he ever comes back, if he ever tries to contact you, I'll destroy him." Arya's voice was hard, certain. "He knows I mean it. He's scared, Luna. For the first time in his life, he's the one who's afraid." "Good." Luna's voice was fierce, and Arya smiled. There was her sister, the real Luna, starting to come back. "He should be afraid. I'm going to wait here for an hour. Make sure he actually leaves. Then I'm coming to get you. We'll go back to the cabin tomorrow and get your things. But tonight, you're staying with me." "Arya, did he hurt you?" Arya touched her cheek, feeling the swelling. "He hit me once. It's nothing." "It's not nothing. He hit you because of me. He hit me because he's a violent bastard who doesn't know how to control himself. That's on him, not you." Arya's voice softened. "I'm okay, Luna, I promise. And soon you will be too." They talked for a few more minutes, Luna's voice growing stronger with each word. When they finally hung up, Arya settled in to wait. She watched the cabin from her hiding spot in the trees, tracking Marcus's movements through the windows. True to his word, or more accurately, true to his fear, Marcus packed quickly. Within 45 minutes, he emerged from the cabin carrying 2 duffel bags. He threw them in the back of his truck, then went back inside. When he came out again, he was carrying a piece of paper, which he tacked to the door. The rejection letter, making it official. He got in his truck and sat there for a moment, staring at the cabin. Arya tensed, wondering if he would change his mind, if he would decide to fight after all. But then the engine started, and the truck pulled away, its taillights disappearing down the long driveway. Arya waited another 15 minutes, making sure he wasn't coming back, then approached the cabin. She pulled the letter off the door and read it by the light of her phone. It was short and to the point, written in Marcus's crude handwriting. "I, Marcus Blackwood, reject Luna Winters as my mate. The bond is dissolved. I renounce all claims to her." It wasn't poetic, but it was legal. According to pack law, a written rejection witnessed by another pack member was enough to dissolve a mating bond. Arya would serve as the witness. Luna was free. Arya went back inside the cabin one last time. She walked through the rooms, seeing them with new eyes now that the immediate threat was gone. This place had been Luna's prison, but it wouldn't be anymore. Tomorrow, they would come back and get Luna's things. They would take anything worth saving and leave the rest to rot. But tonight, Luna was safe. Tonight, the nightmare was over. Arya locked the door behind her and started the long walk back to town. The forest was dark and cold, but she didn't mind. She'd faced down a monster tonight and won. She'd protected her sister, just like she'd always promised to do. The walk took almost an hour, her boots crunching on the frozen ground, her breath misting in the cold air. By the time she reached the edge of town, the first hints of dawn were starting to lighten the eastern sky. Timber Ridge was still mostly asleep, just a few early risers starting their day. Arya made her way to her apartment, a small place above the bookstore on Main Street. She climbed the stairs quietly and unlocked the door. Luna was waiting for her, sitting on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. When she saw Arya, she jumped up and ran to her, throwing her arms around her sister. "You're okay," Luna sobbed. "You're really okay." "I'm okay." Arya hugged her back, careful of her injuries. "We're both okay. It's over. Luna, it's really over." They stood there for a long time, holding each other, two sisters who had been through hell and come out the other side. Finally, Arya pulled back and looked at Luna's face. Even with the bruises, even with the tears, she could see a change, a spark of hope that hadn't been there before. "Let me see your face," Luna said, gently touching Arya's swollen cheek. "He hit you hard." "I've had worse in training." Arya smiled, trying to make light of it. "Besides, it was worth it to see the look on his face when I told him who I really was." Luna laughed, a sound that was half sob, half genuine amusement. "I wish I could have seen that. Trust me, it was satisfying." Arya led her sister back to the couch. "Now let's get some ice on both our faces, and then you need to sleep. Really sleep, without worrying about him coming home drunk and angry." "I don't know if I can. Every time I close my eyes I see him. Then I'll stay with you. I'll sit right here, and if you have nightmares I'll wake you up. You're safe now, Luna. I promise." They spent the rest of the early morning tending to their injuries and talking. Luna told Arya everything. All the details she'd been too ashamed or afraid to share before. Every incident, every insult, every moment of terror. Arya listened, her anger growing colder and more focused with each revelation. "I should have killed him," Arya said at one point. "The world would be better off." "No," Luna shook her head. "You did the right thing. Killing him would have made you like him, and you're nothing like him." "You're good, Arya. You're the best person I know." "I'm not good. I'm just protective of the people I love. That's what makes you good." Luna smiled, and for the first time in months, it reached her eyes. "You could have walked away. You could have told me I made my own bed and I had to lie in it. But you didn't. You came for me. You saved me." "Always," Arya said simply. "I'll always come for you." As the sun rose fully, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, Luna finally fell asleep on the couch, her head resting on Arya's shoulder. Arya stayed awake, keeping watch, making sure her sister was safe. She thought about Marcus, wondered where he'd gone, hoped he was suffering even a fraction of what Luna had suffered. But mostly, she thought about the future, about helping Luna heal, about making sure she never felt that helpless again, about teaching her to be strong, not in the way Arya was strong, but in her own way. The road ahead would be long and difficult. Luna had scars, both visible and invisible, that would take time to fade. But they would face it together, the way they'd always faced everything. Two sisters, two halves of a whole, unbreakable. The next morning, after Luna had slept for a few hours and they'd both had something to eat, they drove back to the cabin together. Arya had borrowed a friend's truck, something bigger than her own, so they could haul Luna's belongings. As they pulled up to the cabin, Luna tensed, her hands gripping the door handle. "He's gone," Arya reminded her gently. "I watched him leave. He's not coming back. I know. But being here..." Luna took a deep breath. "It's hard. We don't have to do this today. We can come back another time." "No." Luna's voice was firm. "I want to do it now. I want to get my things and never come back here again." They got out of the truck and approached the cabin together. The rejection letter was still tacked to the door, fluttering slightly in the breeze. Luna pulled it down and stared at it for a long moment. "It's really over," she whispered. "It's really over," Arya confirmed. Inside, the cabin looked even worse in the daylight. The damage was more obvious, the squalor more apparent. Luna moved through the room slowly, gathering her belongings. There wasn't much. Some clothes, a few books, some photographs from before she'd met Marcus. Everything else belonged to him, or was too damaged to save. "Is this really all you have?" Arya asked, looking at the small pile of possessions. "He didn't like me to have things. He said possessions made people selfish." Luna's voice was flat, emotionless. "He sold most of what I brought with me when we first moved here. Said we needed the money." Arya bit back a curse. Another crime to add to the list. "Then we'll get you new things. Clothes, books, whatever you want. We'll fill your new room with things that make you happy." "My new room? You're moving in with me. At least for a while, until you figure out what you want to do." Arya started carrying boxes out to the truck. "My apartment has 2 bedrooms. The second one is small, but it's yours if you want it. I can't impose on you like that." "You're not imposing. You're my sister. Besides, I could use the company." Arya smiled. "The place gets lonely sometimes." They loaded everything into the truck, which didn't take long given how little Luna had. As they were finishing, a truck pulled up the driveway. Arya immediately stepped in front of Luna, her body tense, ready to fight. But it wasn't Marcus. It was Sheriff Tom Brennan, the pack's law enforcement representative. "Arya, Luna." He nodded to them both, his eyes taking in Luna's bruises, the loaded truck, the state of the cabin. "Got a call about a disturbance out here last night. Wanted to check it out." "Everything's fine, Sheriff," Arya said carefully. "Luna's just moving out." "Uh-huh." He looked at Arya's bruised face, then back at Luna. "Where's Marcus?" "Gone. He left town last night." "Did he now?" Sheriff Brennan pulled out a notepad. "And would his leaving have anything to do with that bruise on your face, Arya?" Arya and Luna exchanged glances. The sheriff was a good man, fair and honest, but he was also bound by pack law. If Arya admitted to assaulting Marcus, even in defense of her sister, there could be consequences. "He hit me," Arya said finally. "I hit him back, then I told him to leave town, and he did." "I see." The sheriff wrote something in his notepad. "And Luna, you got anything to add?" Luna stepped forward, her voice stronger than Arya had heard it in months. "Marcus has been abusing me for 3 months. Beating me, starving me, locking me in the bedroom. Arya came to help me. She defended herself when he attacked her. Then she made him leave. That's the truth." Sheriff Brennan's expression darkened. 3 months, and you didn't report it?" "I was scared. He said if I told anyone, he'd kill me. He said no one would believe me anyway, that I was his mate, and he could do what he wanted." Luna's voice cracked. "I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." "No, I'm sorry." The sheriff put away his notepad. "I should have seen the signs. Should have checked in on you. That's on me." He looked at Arya. "You got proof of what he did?" Arya pulled out her phone and showed him the video. The sheriff watched it in silence, his jaw clenching tighter with each passing second. When it was over, he handed the phone back. "That's all I need. Marcus Blackwood is officially cast out from this pack. If he sets foot in our territory again, he'll be arrested and charged with assault, domestic violence, and violation of mate bond laws. I'll make sure every pack in the region knows what he did." He looked at Luna with sympathy. "I'm sorry this happened to you. If you need anything at all, you let me know." "Thank you, Sheriff," Luna said quietly. After he left, they finished loading the truck and took one last look at the cabin. It stood there, dark and silent, a monument to pain and fear. But it had no power over them anymore. "Want to burn it down?" Arya asked, only half joking. Luna considered, then shook her head. "No, let it rot. Let nature reclaim it. That's a better ending." They got in the truck and drove away, leaving the cabin behind. In the rearview mirror, Arya watched it shrink into the distance until it disappeared completely. Good riddance. The drive back to town was quiet, both sisters lost in their own thoughts. When they reached the apartment, they unloaded Luna's belongings and set up her new room. It was small but cozy, with a window that looked out over Main Street. Arya had already put fresh sheets on the bed and cleared out the closet. "It's perfect," Luna said, sitting on the bed and looking around. "Thank you, Arya, for everything." "You don't have to keep thanking me." Arya sat beside her. "This is what family does. We take care of each other." Over the next few days, they fell into a routine. Arya went to work at the PAC's security office, where she trained new recruits and patrolled the territory. Luna stayed at the apartment, resting and recovering. Slowly, the bruises began to fade. The fear in her eyes began to diminish. She started eating regularly again, putting back on the weight she'd lost. Word spread quickly through Timber Ridge about what had happened. The PAC's reaction was swift and unanimous. Marcus was condemned, his name becoming synonymous with cowardice and cruelty. Several PAC members reached out to Luna, offering support and friendship. Others approached Arya, thanking her for standing up for her sister, for showing that abuse wouldn't be tolerated in their PAC. 1 week after the confrontation, Luna came to Arya with a request. "I want to learn to fight." Arya looked up from the report she was writing. "What?" "I want you to teach me self-defense. I never want to feel that helpless again." Luna's voice was determined. "I'm not going to be like you. I'm never going to be a warrior. But I want to be able to protect myself." Arya smiled, pride swelling in her chest. "Okay, we start tomorrow." And so began Luna's training. Every morning before Arya went to work, they would spend an hour in the PAC's training facility. Arya taught her sister the basics: how to throw a punch, how to block, how to use an attacker's momentum against them. Luna was a slow learner, her body still healing, her confidence still fragile. But she was determined, showing up every day, pushing through the pain and fear. "Good," Arya said one morning as Luna successfully executed a throw, sending Arya tumbling to the mat. That was perfect. Luna stood over her sister, breathing hard, a huge smile on her face. "I did it. I actually did it." "You did." Arya got to her feet and hugged her. "I'm proud of you." As the weeks turned into months, Luna continued to heal and grow stronger. She got a job at the local library, something she'd always wanted to do but Marcus had forbidden. She made new friends, reconnecting with people she'd lost touch with during her time with Marcus. She started laughing again. Really laughing, the sound bright and genuine. Arya watched her sister's transformation with a mixture of pride and relief. This was the Luna she remembered, the Luna who had been buried under months of abuse and fear. She was coming back, piece by piece, day by day. 3 months after the confrontation, Luna came home from work with news. "I saw someone today," she said, her cheeks flushed. "His name is Daniel. He works at the hardware store. He helped me find some supplies for a library project, and we talked for a while. He was really nice." Arya looked up from the dinner she was preparing. "Nice how?" "Just nice. Kind. He smiled at me, and I smiled back, and it felt good. Normal." Luna sat at the kitchen table. "Do you think I'm ready to maybe start thinking about dating again?" Arya considered the question carefully. She wanted to say yes, wanted to encourage her sister to move forward with her life. But she also wanted to protect her, to make sure she didn't rush into something before she was truly ready. "I think you'll know when you're ready," Arya said finally. "But there's no rush. The right person will wait. They'll understand that you need time. What if I'm never ready? What if Marcus broke something in me that can't be fixed?" "He didn't break you. He hurt you. But you're healing. Every day you're getting stronger." Arya sat down across from her sister. And when you are ready, when you do meet someone, it'll be different. Because you're different now. You know what to look for, what red flags to watch for. You won't make the same mistake twice. Luna nodded slowly. You're right, I'm scared. What if I choose wrong again? Then you'll have me to help you figure it out. I'll meet this Daniel, and if he's good enough for you, I'll give him my approval, and if he's not, I'll scare him away. Arya grinned. I'm very good at scaring people away. Luna laughed. You really are. A few days later, Luna brought Daniel by the apartment to meet Arya. He was a tall man with kind eyes and an easy smile, the kind of person who seemed genuinely interested in what others had to say. When Arya opened the door, his smile faltered slightly, and she could see the nervousness in his eyes. You must be Arya, he said, extending his hand. I've heard a lot about you. Good things or bad things? Arya asked, shaking his hand with a grip just firm enough to make a point. Depends on your perspective, I guess. He smiled uncertainly. But I want you to know, I would never hurt Luna. I'd rather die than make her cry. Arya studied him for a long moment, using every instinct she had to assess him. She looked for the signs she'd seen in Marcus. The possessiveness, the need to control, the underlying anger. But she didn't find any of that. What she saw was genuine kindness, respect, and a healthy dose of fear of her, which was actually a good sign. It meant he understood that Luna had people who would protect her. Good, Arya said finally. Because if you did hurt her, dying would be the easy option. Daniel paled slightly, but Luna laughed and took his hand. Don't worry, she's all bark and no bite. That's not what I heard, Daniel muttered, but he smiled too. They stayed for dinner, and Arya watched the way Daniel interacted with Luna. He was attentive without being overbearing, interested without being intrusive. When Luna talked, he listened. When she laughed, he laughed with her, not at her. And most importantly, when she mentioned needing to leave early because she had work the next morning, he didn't argue or try to convince her to stay longer. He simply said okay and offered to walk her home. After they left, Arya cleaned up the dinner dishes with a smile on her face. Daniel seemed like a good man, the kind of person Luna deserved. But she'd keep watching, keep assessing. Because that was her job. That was what sisters did. As winter turned to spring, life in Timber Ridge continued its steady rhythm. Luna and Daniel grew closer, their relationship developing slowly and carefully. Arya took on more responsibility in the pack, her reputation as someone not to be crossed serving her well. The twins remained close, still finishing each other's sentences, still knowing what the other was thinking with just a glance. There was no word from Marcus. The pack's network reported that he'd tried to join a pack in Wyoming, but had been rejected when they learned of his history. Other reports said he'd gone completely lone, living in the wilderness, avoiding all contact with other wolves. Arya didn't care what happened to him, as long as he stayed far away from her sister. 1 year after the night they switched places, the twins returned to the cabin together. They'd avoided it for months, but Luna said she needed to see it one more time, needed to face it without fear. The cabin had deteriorated significantly in the year since they'd last been there. The roof was sagging, the windows were broken, and vines had started to climb the walls. Nature was reclaiming it, just as Luna had predicted. They stood outside, looking at the place that had held so much pain. It looks smaller than I remember, Luna said quietly. That's because you're bigger now, stronger. Arya put her arm around her sister's shoulders. This place doesn't have power over you anymore. No, it doesn't. Luna took a deep breath, then let it out slowly. I'm ready to go. I don't need to see it again. They turned their backs on the cabin and walked away, leaving it to be consumed by time and weather. It was a symbol of the past, and they were focused on the future. Do you ever regret it? Luna asked as they hiked back toward town. switching places with me. You got hurt because of me. I got a bruise, Arya corrected. You got 3 months of hell. There's no comparison. She looked at her sister. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat, 1,000 times over. That's what it means to be family. Luna stopped walking and hugged her sister fiercely. I love you. I don't say it enough, but I do. You saved my life. I love you too. Arya hugged her back just as tightly. And you saved mine in a different way. You remind me what I'm fighting for. You remind me why it matters to stand up to bullies and protect people who can't protect themselves. They continued down the mountain, their laughter echoing through the trees. Behind them, the cabin stood silent and empty, a monument to a darkness that had been overcome. Ahead of them, the town waited, warm and welcoming, full of people who cared about them. The story of the twins who switched places became legend in Timber Ridge. It was told as a warning to those who might abuse their power, and as encouragement to those who suffered in silence. Parents told it to their children, teaching them that family meant standing together, that abuse was never acceptable, that there were always people willing to help if you just asked. Luna became an advocate for abuse survivors, using her experience to help others find the courage to leave dangerous situations. She started a support group at the library, a safe space where people could share their stories and find resources. She spoke at PAC meetings about recognizing the signs of abuse, about the importance of checking in on friends and family, about the fact that mate bonds didn't give anyone the right to hurt their partner. Arya continued to be the protector, the warrior, the one who stood between the innocent and those who would harm them. She trained new recruits with a focus on protecting the vulnerable, teaching them that strength wasn't about dominating others, but about defending those who couldn't defend themselves. She became known throughout the region as someone who would always stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. Together they proved that strength came in many forms. Luna's strength was in her resilience, her ability to heal and help others heal. Arya's strength was in her willingness to fight, to stand up, to never back down from injustice. They were different sides of the same coin, two halves of a whole, and together they were unbreakable. 2 years after the confrontation, Luna married Daniel in a ceremony surrounded by friends and PAC. It was a beautiful spring day, the mountains green and alive, wildflowers blooming everywhere. Arya stood beside her sister as maid of honor, wearing a dress that made her feel slightly ridiculous, but that Luna had insisted on. As she watched Luna exchange vows with Daniel, promising to love and cherish each other, to support and respect each other, Arya felt tears prick her eyes. This was how it was supposed to be. This was what a real mate bond looked like. Not control and fear, but partnership and love. Daniel's vows were simple, but heartfelt. Luna, you're the strongest person I know. You've been through hell, and you came out the other side with your kindness intact, your hope unbroken. I promise to always treat you with the respect you deserve. I promise to listen when you speak, to support your dreams, to never make you feel small. I promise to love you, not as a possession, but as a partner, as an equal. Luna's vows were just as powerful. Daniel, you showed me that not all men are like the one who hurt me. You taught me that I could trust again, that I could love again. You've been patient with my fears, understanding of my scars. You've never tried to change me or control me. You've just loved me, exactly as I am. I promise to love you the same way, with honesty and respect and joy. There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. During the reception, Luna pulled Arya aside. They stood together on the edge of the celebration, watching people dance and laugh. I never thanked you properly, Luna said, for saving me, for giving me the chance to have this life. You've thanked me 100 times, Arya replied, smiling. Then this is 101. Luna took her sister's hands. You're my hero, Arya. You always have been. When we were kids and other children picked on me, you stood up for me. When Mom died and I didn't think I could go on, you held me together. And when Marcus was destroying me, you stepped in and saved me. I don't know what I did to deserve a sister like you, but I'm grateful every single day. And you're mine, Arya said, her voice thick with emotion. It takes a different kind of courage to survive what you survived, to heal, to love again. You're the bravest person I know, Luna. You took something terrible and turned it into something good. You're helping people. You're making a difference. That's real strength. They stood together, two sisters bound by blood and love and shared experience. The music played, people danced, and the future stretched out before them, bright and full of possibility. I have something for you, Luna said, pulling a small box from her pocket. I know you don't like jewelry, but I wanted you to have this. Arya opened the box to find a simple silver bracelet. Engraved on the inside were the words, 2 halves of a whole, unbreakable. Luna, it's beautiful. We're both wearing one. Mine says the same thing. Luna showed her wrist, where an identical bracelet gleamed. So that we always remember, no matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, we're connected. We're sisters. We're unbreakable. Arya put on the bracelet, feeling the cool metal against her skin. Thank you. I love it. I love you. I love you too. They hugged, holding each other tight. 2 sisters who had been through hell and come out stronger. Around them, the celebration continued, full of joy and hope and love. Marcus Blackwood had tried to break Luna, but he had failed. Because Luna had something he could never understand. Something more powerful than his fists or his anger or his cruelty. She had a sister who would walk through fire for her, who would switch places with her, take her pain, fight her battles, who would never, ever let her face the darkness alone. And in the end, that love was stronger than any hate. The alpha wolf twin had swapped places with her bruised sister, and the mate who hurt her had paid the price. But more than that, 2 sisters had proven that family meant standing together, protecting each other, and never giving up. Years passed, and life continued in Timber Ridge. Luna and Daniel had children, 2 beautiful daughters who had their mother's gentle spirit and their father's kind heart. Arya became their favorite aunt, teaching them to be strong and brave, to stand up for themselves and others. Luna's support group grew, helping dozens of abuse survivors find the courage to leave dangerous situations and rebuild their lives. She became a voice for the voiceless, an advocate for change, pushing for stronger protections and better resources for those in need. Arya eventually found her own mate, a strong and confident wolf named James who wasn't intimidated by her reputation and who loved her fierce protective nature. They built a life together based on mutual respect and partnership, the kind of relationship that Luna and Daniel had, the kind that Marcus had never understood. The twins remained close throughout it all, still finishing each other's sentences, still knowing what the other needed with just a glance. They raised their children together, teaching them the importance of family, of standing up for what's right, of protecting those who can't protect themselves. And sometimes when they were alone, they would talk about that night. The night they switched places. The night Arya confronted Marcus. The night everything changed. Do you ever wonder what happened to him? Luna asked one evening as they sat on Arya's porch, watching their children play in the yard. Sometimes, Arya admitted, but not often. He's not worth the energy. I heard he died, Luna said quietly. Last winter. He was living alone in the wilderness, and he got caught in a blizzard. They found his body in the spring. Arya was quiet for a moment, processing this information. She waited for some feeling to surface, satisfaction, relief, maybe even pity. But there was nothing. Marcus Blackwood had been a monster who hurt her sister, and now he was gone. That was all. "How do you feel about it?" Arya asked. "Sad," Luna said, surprising her. Not for him exactly, but for the person he could have been if he'd chosen differently, for all the people he hurt, for the life he wasted being cruel instead of kind. "You're a better person than I am," Arya said. "I'm just glad he can't hurt anyone else." "That too," Luna smiled. "But mostly, I'm grateful. For you, for Daniel, for my daughters, for this life. Marcus tried to destroy me, but instead, he led me here, to this moment, to this happiness, and I wouldn't change any of it." Arya looked at her sister, at the woman she'd become, strong and compassionate, scarred but not broken, a survivor who had turned her pain into purpose. Marcus had tried to break her, but he'd failed, because Luna had something he never understood. She had love. She had family. She had a sister who would do anything for her, and that was stronger than any darkness. The sun set over Timber Ridge, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple. The children's laughter rang out across the yard. Inside the house, their mates were preparing dinner. Everything was peaceful. Everything was good. Two sisters sat together, wearing matching silver bracelets that caught the fading light. Two halves of a whole, unbreakable. That was the real story. That was what mattered, and they lived it every single day.